The call came at 2:17 in the morning. A woman's voice, shaking but controlled, said 4 words that would haunt Detective Iris Vaughn for months. "My husband is dead." By the time Iris arrived at the Whitmore estate in the hills above, Portland, the rain had turned the driveway into a river of mud and regret. The house loomed like a monument to wealth that couldn't buy safety. Inside, Richard Whitmore lay face down in his study, a crystal whiskey glass shattered beside his hand. 53 years old, real estate mogul, philanthropist, and according to the preliminary report from the medical examiner, the person was poisoned. The woman who'd called stood by the fireplace, wrapped in a silk robe, her face a mask of carefully managed grief. Catherine Whitmore, 48, former actress, Richard's wife of 12 years. "I found him an hour ago," Catherine said, her voice steady. "I'd been at a charity gala downtown. When I came home, he was already like this." Iris studied the room, everything pristine except for the body and the broken glass. No signs of struggle, no forced entry. "Who else has access to this house?" Catherine's laugh was hollow. "Who doesn't?" Richard had enemies, detective, and worse friends. Over the next 48 hours, Iris built a list. 7 people who'd been in Richard Whitmore's orbit. 7 people with access to his home, his routine, his whiskey decanter. 7 people with motive. This is where most detectives stop thinking. They find suspects, check alibis, and follow the obvious trail. But the truth hides where no one looks. Remember that. Suspect 1. Catherine Whitmore, the wife. Motive. Richard had been having an affair. Iris found the evidence in his phone records hundreds of texts to a number registered under a fake name. Catherine had known her prenup was ironclad. She'd get nothing in a divorce. But as a widow, $30 million and the house. Catherine sat across from Iris in the sunlit conservatory, sipping tea like they were discussing the weather. "Did I know about the affair?" Catherine smiled. "Of course. Did I care? Not enough to kill him. I had my own arrangements, detective. Richard and I had an understanding, an open marriage, a practical one." Iris made a note. Catherine had motive and means. But her alibi was solid. Dozens of witnesses at the gala. Security footage showing her arrival home at 1:45 a.m., 30 minutes after the medical examiner estimated Richard's time of death. Most people assume it's the wife, but is it ever really that simple? Suspect 2. Marcus Chun, the business partner, Richard's second-in-command at Whitmore Development. 39. Ambitious, and according to company insiders, furious about being passed over for a promotion Richard had promised him. Iris found Marcus in his corner office, surrounded by blueprints and bitterness. "Richard promised me equity," Marcus said, not bothering with pleasantries. 5 years ago. Said when the harbor project closed I'd become a full partner. The project closed last month. Know what Richard gave me? A bonus and a handshake. That's $50 million you didn't get. Try 80. I did the math. Marcus had been at the office until midnight that night. Security logs confirmed it. But the Whitmore estate was only 15 minutes away. Enough time to drive over Poison, the whiskey, and drive back. "Where were you between midnight and 2 a.m.? Iris asked. "Home, alone, drinking cheaper whiskey and watching cheaper men get what I deserved. No alibi, clear motive." Iris added him to the SHORTLIST. Suspect 3. Elena Buscus, the mistress. 20-9. Marketing executive, the woman behind the fake phone number. Iris tracked her down at a downtown coffee shop, where Elena sat with the hollow-eyed look of someone who'd been crying for days. "I loved him," Elena said simply. "I know how that sounds. Cliché mistress in love with a married man, but Richard was going to leave Catherine. He told me he'd filed the papers." Iris leaned forward. "Had he?" Elena's face crumbled. "No. I checked with his lawyer after he died. There were no papers. No divorce. He'd been lying to me for 8 months. Detail matters later. Elena believed Richard was leaving his wife. She had no reason to kill him before the divorce went through. She'd get nothing as a mistress, but potentially something as a future wife. "Where were you the night he died?" "Home. I'd been texting Richard all evening, begging him to come see me. He never responded. I fell asleep around 11. Woke up to his assistant calling me with the news. Another dead ender, was it?" Suspect 4. Thomas Whitmore, the brother. 50-6. Failed entrepreneur, living in Richard's shadow his entire life. And, according to financial records Iris pulled, drowning in debt. Thomas Met her at a bar, already 3 drinks deep at 11 in the morning. Richard had everything, Thomas said, his words slurred with whiskey and resentment. The business, the house, the respect. Know what I got? A loan with 20% interest when my restaurant went under. My own brother charged me interest. Owed him $200,000 owed past tense. I paid him back last month, every cent. And you know what Richard said? Maybe now you'll learn to stand on your own feet. Thomas had been at a poker game with friends until 3 a.m. the night Richard died. 4 witnesses confirmed it, but Iris had learned that alibis could be bought, especially by desperate men. Suspect 5, Diane Foster, the housekeeper, 62, worked for the Whitmores for 9 years. Quiet, efficient, and according to Catherine, recently given notice Richard was firing her. Iris asked Catherine during their second interview, letting her go. He thought we needed someone younger, more ... modern. Catherine's tone suggested she disagreed with the decision. Iris found Diane in her small apartment across town, packing boxes. After 9 years of loyalty, he discarded me like old furniture, Diane said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. I cleaned his messes. I kept his secrets. I knew about every affair, every shady deal, every lie he told, and he repaid me with 2 weeks severance. What secrets? Diane smiled coldly. Ask his accountant about the offshore accounts. Ask his lawyer about the shell companies. Richard Whitmore was a criminal in a tailored suit. Diane had been home the night of the murder, her daughter confirmed it, but daughters lie for their mothers. Suspect 6, Dr. Harrison Webb, the physician. Richard's personal doctor, 415. Years 51, impeccable reputation, and according to medical records, the one who'd prescribed Richard medication for anxiety, high blood pressure, and insomnia. Iris met Dr. Webb at his private practice. All leather chairs and hushed professionalism. Richard was a difficult patient, Dr. Webb said carefully. He refused to follow medical advice. Drank too much, worked too much, stressed too much. I warned him repeatedly that his lifestyle would kill him, but poison killed him, not stress. Dr. Webb's expression remained neutral. Someone had access to substances that could cause what appeared to be a heart attack or stroke. The poison used digoxin is derived from cardiac medication. It's not difficult to obtain if you know that, right? People like doctors, or people who know doctors. Dr. Webb had been at a medical conference in Seattle the night Richard died, but the conference had ended at 7 p.m. Plenty of time to drive back to Portland at Suspect 7. Adrian Cole, the estranged son, Richard's son from his first marriage. 26 artists, living in a studio apartment on the east side, painting angry abstracts that no one bought. Adrian hadn't spoken to his father in 3 years, not since Richard remarried and, according to Adrian, replaced our family with a prettier version. He wrote me out of his will, Adrian told Iris. Standing amid his paint-splattered chaos, said I was wasting my life. Said if I wanted his money, I'd have to earn it by joining his company. I told him to go to hell. But you're back in the... Well, Nas his only biological child. You inherit 40% of the estate. That's $12 million. Adrian's laugh was bitter. I didn't know that until his lawyer called me yesterday. If I'd wanted to kill him for money, I would have done it before. He cut me out, not after. Think carefully. What's the one thing that doesn't add up here? Adrian had no alibi. He'd been alone in his studio, painting. No witnesses. No phone calls. Nothing. Iris sat in her office 3 days after the murder, surrounded by files and photographs. 7 suspects. 7 motives. 5 with alibis that had holes. 2 without alibis at all. Catherine wanted the money. Marcus wanted revenge. Elena wanted love, or thought she did. Thomas wanted freedom from debt and shame. Diane wanted justice. For being discarded, Dr. Webb had access to the poison. Adrian had inheritance and anger. Everyone had a motive. Everyone had means. Everyone had an opportunity. So why did Iris feel like she was missing something fundamental? She pulled out the toxicology report again. Digoxin poisoning. It would take 30 to 60 minutes for symptoms to appear. Richard had died between 1:15 and 1:30 a.m., according to the medical examiner, which meant the poison had been administered. Between 12 and 1 a.m., Iris closed her eyes and replayed the timeline. Catherine was at the gala until 1:30. Marcus is at his office until midnight. Elena is asleep at home. Thomas is at his poker game. Diane with her daughter. Dr. Webb is in Seattle. Adrian is in his studio. 7 suspects. 7 alibis. Weak or strong. And then Iris saw it. The person she'd never considered. The person who'd been there the whole time but had never appeared on her radar because they had no motive at all. She grabbed her phone and called the forensics lab. I need you to run prints on the whiskey decanter again. But this time, don't just look for Richard's prints and the obvious suspects. Look for everyone who touched it in the last week. 2 hours later, the results came back. There was one set of prints that appeared multiple times. Fresh, clear. From the night of the murder, Iris stood up, grabbed her coat, and drove back to the Whitmore estate. She found him in the kitchen, preparing lunch for Catherine. Calm, composed, invisible. James Rothwell, the estate manager, 54 years old, employed by the Whitmores for 18 months. Quiet, efficient, professional, a man no one had thought to question. Detective Vaughn, James said pleasantly, setting down his knife. Can I get you some tea? You killed Richard Whitmore. James didn't flinch. That's quite an accusation. Iris laid the forensic report on the counter. Your prints are on the whiskey decanter. Fresh prints. From the night he died. I'm the estate manager. I touch everything in this house. But you touched the decanter. At 12:45 a.m., security footage shows you in the study. You told the police you'd gone to bed at 10 p.m. James was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled a sad, tired smile. You're right, he said quietly. I killed him. Iris felt her pulse quicken. Why, you had no motive. No connection to him before you worked here. No financial gain. No revenge plot. Why, James walked to the window, looking out at the manicured garters. Because 18 months ago, Richard Whitmore killed my daughter. Well, the room went cold. What? Her name was Sarah Rothwell. She was 23. Beautiful. Brilliant. She worked as a project manager for Whitmore Development. James's voice was steady, but his hands trembled. 3 years ago, she discovered that Richard was using illegal shortcuts on the harbor project. Substandard materials, paid-off inspectors, buildings that wouldn't pass safety codes. She tried to report him. He offered her money to stay quiet. She refused. Iris listened, her chest tight. So he destroyed her, spread rumors that she was unstable, had her fired, blacklisted her in the industry. She couldn't find work, couldn't pay her rent, fell into depression. James turned back to Iris, tears streaming down his face. She killed herself 2 years ago, jumped from the Morrison Bridge, left a note explaining everything, but no one believed her. Richard was too powerful, too respected, so you got yourself hired here. I changed my last name, created a false work history, became invisible. I spent 18 months earning their trust, learning their routines, waiting for the perfect moment. James's voice hardened. Richard Whitmore didn't just take my daughter's life. He took her reputation, her future, her hope, and the law did nothing. So you poisoned him, digoxin dissolved in his whiskey. He never even tasted it. I watched him drink it at 12:30. Watched him go back to his paperwork, oblivious. I was gone before the symptoms started. James looked at Iris with hollow eyes. I don't expect mercy, detective. I don't want it. I just wanted him to face consequences, even if I had to become the consequence myself. James Rothwell was arrested. That afternoon, the case was airtight. Confession, forensic evidence, motive delayed, buried, invisible, but absolutely real. Iris sat in her office that night, the case file closed, and thought about the 7 suspects who had consumed her investigation. Catherine, with her 30 million. Marcus has lost equity. Elena with her broken promises. Thomas with his resentment. Diane with her betrayal. Dr. Webb has his access. Adrian with his inheritance. Everyone had a motive. Everyone looked guilty. But the real killer was the person. No one saw the person with a reason so buried in the past that it had become invisible. The person who'd transformed grief into patience, and patience into perfect revenge. Iris opened her notebook and wrote, "The detective's code, case 48. When everyone looks guilty, you're looking in the wrong place. Motive isn't always about money or power or love. Sometimes it's about something deeper, something that happened years before the crime was ever committed. The truth hides where no one looks, in the quiet rage of the invisible, in the patience of the grieving, in the hearts of those who have nothing left to lose but someone else to blame. Justice and revenge wear the same face. The only difference is who gets to decide which one it is." She closed the notebook. Outside, Portland rain washed the streets clean. The case was over. But the question remained. Was James Rothwell a murderer, or was he the only one brave enough to hold Richard Whitmore accountable? When the law fails the innocent, does justice require a guilty man? What would you do if someone destroyed the person you loved most and got away with it?